Welcome to Chapter 5, Inter-VLAN Routing by Jorge and Daniel. The content of this chapter is the following. Number 1, Introduction. Number 2, Legacy Routing. Number 3, Routing on a Stick. Number 4, Multi-layer Switch. Number 5, Troubleshooting.
In order to communicate different VLANs, we need to use a router or a layer 3 switch. The use of a layer 3 device provides a method for controlling the flow of traffic between network segments. The process of forwarding network traffic from one VLAN to another VLAN using routing is known as inter-VLAN routing.
Legacy Routing Configuration. Each VLAN is connected to a physical interface. This method is rarely used today because it's ineffective. On your switch, you have to create a VLAN and assign a port to it. Assign also IP to each router port. The following commands illustrates how to configure legacy routing on your network, both in your router and in your switch. The following is a small video that shows how legacy routing works. We can see that the router has a different VLAN in each interface. So this means that in order to receive and send data to different VLANs, we need multiple physical connections. Routing on a stick. Router on a stick is a type of router configuration in which a single physical interface routes traffic between multiple VLANs on a network. The single connection between switches and router must be configured as trunk in order to send VLAN tag data through the network to the corresponding VLANs. The following video illustrates how router on a stick configuration works. We can see that the router has configured multiple subinterfaces that allow the router to send VLAN information through the network. Only one physical connection is needed, but it needs to be enabled as a trunk. Router on a stick configuration. First, you have to activate the trunk connection between your switch and your router. The following commands tell you how to do it. Remember, you have to connect the subinterfaces with the corresponding VLANs and IPs. The following images show the correct commands to do so.
Multilayer switch. Multilayer switching is more scalable than any other inter-VLAN routing implementation. To enable a multilayer switch to perform routing functions, the multilayer switch must have IP routing enabled. With a multilayer switch, traffic is routed internal to the switch device, which means packets are not filtered down a single trunk line to obtain new VLAN tagging information. Routers are still useful because of other extra features such as better security.
The following is a video that illustrates how multilayer switch works. You can notice that the switch 1 has multiple VLAN interfaces and that the trunk port is enabled. However, the multilayer switch doesn't need it has the VLAN addresses inside it. A multilayer switching can be considered a switch but with routing capabilities. Multilayer switch configuration. The following are the commands that you need to input on your switch in order to do routing functions. Show SDM preferred shows the current configuration on your switch. SDM preferred displays the possible configurations. SDM preferred LAN-based routing activates static routing, and do reload loads the new configuration into the switch. The following commands are useful to configure IPs to your interfaces and activate routing with do routing command. Make sure all your connections are correct with the do show IP route command. Finally, configure the default gateway with the IP route command and configure an IP to your router interface. This should enable the connection.
Troubleshooting on legacy routing. All ports between router and user device are not in the same VLAN, making communication impossible. Make sure your switch ports are in the right VLAN with the switch mode access VLAN command. Make sure your physical router interface is connected to the correct port on the switch.
Troubleshooting for router on a stick. Make sure your trunk connection is correct between the switch and the router. It's recommended to use redundant links and alternate paths. Make sure you assign the correct IP address to your subinterface in your router with show interface and show running config commands.
Troubleshooting on multilayer switch. VLANs must be defined all across the network, must be enabled as trunks if necessary, and also ports must be in the right VLAN. SBI, check that IP and subnet mask are configured correctly. For SBI must be up, and SBI must match with the VLAN number. Routing must be enabled, and hosts must have the correct IP address or subnet mask, and must have a default gateway associated with an SBI or route port.
Thank you for watching this video. Remember to read all the information on netacad.com. Thank you.